Okay, good morning, my YouTube friends. I am going to show you how I make my kosher pickles. And once I get the pickles done tomorrow, I will be finishing up some relish that I started this morning. And I'll explain the whole process to you when I get those videos going. But it's so simple. I am using Mrs. Wiggs Create Kosher Dill Pickles Quick Process Pickle Mix. It's so simple. It takes this bag of pickle mix, which I get at Walmart. Again, real easy to find in the canning section where the jars are stored. And it's 9 to 11 pounds of cucumbers, 3 1/3 cups of Mrs. Wiggs white distilled vinegar. I will use Walmart brand vinegar because it's the same percent acidity at 5%, and 7.5 cups of water and 1 pouch of this dill mix. Now all those ingredients are going to go into this pot. I had a little left over from my last batch, so I'm going to make a little extra because I seem to run a little short when filling the jars. Maybe I'm letting it boil down too much. So I'm going to be a little more careful today, but I've got probably 30 cucumbers I've got to process, because that's what's left after I made about 70 of them into a sweet relish mix. And I'm going to show you that real quick. I hope I don't spill it, but don't mind my messy kitchen. My computer's there because I'm monitoring several of my groups. This is my cucumber mix. I'm going to show you. See how fine that is? And in there, this is not my cucumber, this is my relish mix. It's in the refrigerator chilling, and I'll explain that whole process in another video. But I wanted to give you an idea what I'm working on. Alright, I'm going to get all this put together. I have my jars in here heating up. So this is a water bath canning method, and it's one of the simplest canning methods I've ever tried. So, simple ingredients: kosher pickle mix, vinegar and water. And then you fill your hot jars. The jars have to be sterilized, and I have to get my lids going. So I have a few things I have to do yet, but this is just the beginning, and I'll be back to you in a little bit. Okay, I'm back. I got my water and vinegar mix, and you can hear the grit. I'm dissolving the ingredients from the kosher pickle mix. I just turned the heat on, so I'm going to be heating this up for a little while. And you can bring this to a light simmer. You don't really need to boil it. You just need to dissolve the ingredients. And it needs to be nice and hot for when you add it to your jars. None of this is hard. This is one of the easiest canning things I've ever learned to do. And I actually enjoy working with them. It's nice to be handling fresh produce and putting back your own foods. You know what's in the ingredients, because a lot of these are homemade. Okay, I am back with y'all. I've got all my ingredients in this pot, which is the water and the vinegar, and I brought this out just to show you. This is the vinegar I use. I think I got this one at Save-A-Lot, and I bought it back in 2014, but it didn't expire to this year. So this was a good, at least a 1-year store shelf life, but I happen to know vinegar stores a lot longer than that. It really doesn't have an expiration date. It's just a suggested use by date. And then again, the kosher dill pickle mix, Mrs. Wiggs. If you ever want to make a wonderful spaghetti sauce, go get Mrs. Wiggs spaghetti sauce mix for canning. I am dissolving my ingredients, and it sounds like it's getting there really nicely already. I added some extra water and extra vinegar because I had a quarter of a packet from my last canning of the kosher dill pickle mix. So I have a little more juice in here than I may need, but that's alright. Pickle juice is nothing we're going to let go to waste. We would just find something else to throw in it. Maybe some carrots and pickle up some carrots. I don't know. I'd get real creative not to waste my pickle juice. My jars are simmering. As you can see, we got lots of heat coming out of those. Those will be nice and sterile when it's time. I sterilize and I process in the same water. That way I'm not wasting water, because I do have to pay for my water here. And I'm going to put some vinegar in this water as well, because I have very, very hard water. So a little bit of vinegar keeps your jars from getting all cloudy and nasty. And I'm not putting it in the jars, I'm putting it on the side. Just a splash in there. And now my jars won't get that white film on them. And I've got to start chopping some cucumbers. Here's some cucumbers I'm working with. They're already cleaned. I already cleaned up the ends. I'm just going to probably slice these in half because they're not very big around. So I'm just going to slice them in half and stuff the jars the best I can and go from there. This is just half of what I have to process today. The other half is still over by the sink needing to be cleaned. So I'll be back with you guys in a little bit. Okay, I'm back with you guys, and my pickle mix is ready to go. And I've got 2 jars filled. And when I say filled, you don't even want wiggle room in those pickles. I pack them as tight as I can get them. And because these are short pickles, I actually put a couple slice pieces on top. Why waste the room if you have room for a couple more pickles? Whether they're full slices or half slices, it's still a pickle in the end. Some of the things I want to go over with you is some things that are very important. I bought a kit. It's a canning kit. It has a jar lifter, the funnel, the magnet, and the debubbler. This is the debubbler, which is important when you're canning to get as many bubbles out as you possibly can. This is the magnet, which will lift the lids to seal the jars. Those are vital tools, because there ain't no way you're getting that to your jar with your fingers, and you shouldn't even try. Now, is my funnel the best you can buy? No, but I've had it for 3 years now and it's serving me well. They have some really cool new tools out, and one of them is this little device here, and it's a little mitt for picking up your cans. It helps tighten those lids down too while the can is still hot from the mix going in. I'm going to fill a jar and let you see how full to fill the jar, so you know. And I just give it a little swish, and I try and get my jars as close to my pot. It saves a lot of cleanup mess, because this pickling juice will stain. Alright, there's one. You see I'm getting some of those seeds. I believe there's some kind of pepper seeds, but I'm not real sure. And we're filling the jar. One more should do it. And we're trying to get it up to that one line right there at the bottom rim. So when I say the bottom of the rim, this is the line, and there's a little lip on the jar. That's where you want to fill it to. And that gives you the headspace you need for the jars to push any extra air out and expand, and then the steam forces it back all the way out, and then the jar should seal properly. Okay, the next step is going to be wiping the jars. Oops, my paper towel roll is almost out. What I do, I just get a little dab from my, I get a dab from my hot water back there, because this is a salt solution, and I wipe the rim of my jar, just like that. Oop, pickle, get in there. There we go. Just give it a little light wipe, that's all you need. And then you take your lid. This is hard, I'm doing this one-handed. I don't recommend it. There, now all you need is your ring, and you're ready to put it back in the canner. And my rings are not handy. Alright, now we got some rings, and you're going to want to hand tighten. You don't over tighten, just hand tighten. And now you can set that right in the canner, and it's ready to go. Now I take these jars out 2 at a time, fill them, seal them, and put them back in the canner. And then we're ready to start processing these. And this is only a 10-minute, I believe it's a 10-minute. I'll have to check my label again. 10 to 15 minute hot water bath, and they are done. And then you just gotta let them cool, and once they cool a little bit, well, you lift this rack out, and I'll show you all that when we get there. Alright, I'm gonna finish filling my jars, and I'll show you the process when I go to put them all in the canner here. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I have 7 quarts of kosher dill pickles in the canner. I'm bringing the canner back up to a boil. And what I forgot to mention and show you was debubbling that jar. That jar failed on me. So I have this right here. I had a mess. It was the first jar in, so I was able to pull it out and get the pickles out. But my brine is all through the pot, and that's fine. It's just more vinegar. It won't hurt nothing. So I'm going forward with my canning project. And I still probably have another 7 quarts I have to put together. I still have some pickling juice left. Yeah, I got some messes too. But I'm making progress. 7 quarts in. It's going to come up to a boil. Once it hits a rolling boil, I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes. It's a 10-minute hot water bath can process for kosher pickles. Alright. When I'm done with this, I will bring you all back as I take them out of the canner. Be right back. Okay, I've got a boil going, as you can see. I've set my timer to 10 minutes. It's 9:32 now. I'm processing my next batch of cucumbers. I got my next set of jars ready to be sanitized. And we're moving forward here. We're getting stuff done. My kitchen's a disaster, an absolute disaster, which I hate, but we're getting something done, and that's a good thing. So I'm going to have to mix another batch of pickle brine, and I got some pickles to work on. I'll be back with you when I pull these out. But I wanted to show you the boil. It's coming to a rolling boil. In fact, I'll probably have to turn the heat down because it will cook over if you're not careful. So I'll take it down to 3/4, about 3/4 of the heat there. And you see, it doesn't take long. We're already down to 8:46, so it won't be long. We'll be pulling them out. Alright, I'll be right back with you. Okay, the pickles are done. The timer went off at 10 minutes, and all I've done at this point is lifted the rack out. As you can see, this is the rack that they're sitting in. The water is still boiling. I turned the heat down on the water. I'm going to let them cool in this situation for a few minutes before I try and move them over to the towel. You always want to set up your workspace before you need it to be set up. So my towel is already down. You never want to set a hot jar on your countertop because the countertop is cool, and you don't want that coolness to affect the change in your jar, the heat in your jar too quickly, because it can damage your jars. And depending on your countertops, there's a great amount of heat in here. It can damage your countertop. One of the other things I want to show you, when I open a new case of jars, I do it differently. And I watched, I'm not sure who it was on YouTube, she does this as well. Is it Purbane or one of those ladies? But I leave the plastic on the case. And here's why. It helps keep this case sturdier and stronger, number one. Number two, if there's any spillage in here, it contains it into this case. Number three, when this is full of the quart jars, I can put a dust cover over it from what's left of the actual plastic top. I have changed how I'm stocking my canned goods. I'm stocking them back in the cases, so I can stack them one on top of the other because I've done a lot of canning already this year. And my goal is, if there's ever an earthquake or anything that's going to shake us real good, I want my jars secure. If they're on a shelf, they're going to fall off. Any heavy vibration, and we have concussions once in a while here that nobody can explain, but it shakes my whole house. So I have now transitioned to putting them in here. My husband, since I haven't saved the cardboards, because this is one of my earlier boxes, he makes cardboard sleeves to separate the jars. And that way, if something shakes the house, the jars can't hit each other and get damaged. It's a safety built in so that all the hard work we're doing as we're canning doesn't go to waste. Anybody who lives anywhere in this country should be doing that, I believe. If you're canning, you need to make sure all that work is safe and secure from anything happening to it, other than what we can't control. To me, this is something I can control, so I will be controlling it. Alright, let's see here. How are we doing? They're cooling. I've turned the heat almost totally off now to let them cool a little more naturally. I'm going to soon lift these out, but they're going to end up sitting here until tomorrow. Why? Because they need time to stop boiling, because they're still boiling in their jars. And by putting them here, it gives them that time to rest and for the seals to set on the jars. Very, very important to let those seals set on your jars. Oh, I just heard a ping. That means we've got a jar sealed. Awesome. I love when that happens. The pinging has started. And I believe it's one of the jars. I believe it's that one back there that's sealed, but I'm not sure. Oh, got too close again. I fogged you up. Alright, I'll be back in a little bit. Okay. My final update for the day for the kosher pickles is 12 quarts all canned and done. I did have 2 failed jars. When I say failed jars, the actual bottoms broke out of the jar as I put them in the boiling water. So I've gotten my jars various places. Some were used, some were brand new. So I expected some of that to happen. You just don't panic. If you hear it pop when you put it in the canner, you remove it immediately if you can. You can always add another pint or quart full of water to take up that voided space in the canner, which is what I ended up doing. But I did end up with 12 quarts, and every one is sealed but this one right here. So that one I'm still waiting on. Everything else sealed beautifully, and the color looks good. And they'll sit here now till tomorrow, and by tomorrow they'll be cool to the touch, and I'll put them in a case and back in the pantry room. And I'll also label them tomorrow because they're too warm right now to put a label on. And thank you for coming with me on my canning adventure, and that's how I can the kosher pickles. Tomorrow I'll be working on sweet pickle relish. That will be my first project of the day. I'm missing one ingredient yet for that, so I'm going to go out first thing in the morning and pick up that ingredient. Then we'll be canning some relish tomorrow. I have a feeling I got a lot of relish to can because it's a huge bowl. But it'll be another adventure, so we'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a blessed day. Thank you again for following me.